The longest counterfeiting investigation in Secret Service history wasn't about a criminal mastermind with $1 million printing press. It was about a 73-year-old man forging $1 bills, with spelling mistakes. And they couldn't catch him for 10 years. Not because he was brilliant, because nobody checks a dollar. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, an entire government was printing $100 bills so perfect that even Federal Reserve machines couldn't tell the difference. One operation cost pennies, the other cost millions. And the strange part? The old man with the cheap ink might have been the more dangerous counterfeiter. Here's why. This is Money Origins, where we trace the real stories behind how money works, how it breaks, and who tried to cheat it. This story moves between two extremes of dollar counterfeiting: a state-backed operation producing flawless supernotes, and a retired junk dealer producing bills a child could spot. By the end, the reason the Secret Service feared one more than the other won't be what you expect. And it has nothing to do with the quality of the paper. Quick note: everything in this story comes from documented court records and published reporting. Some details have been simplified, but the core facts are well established. In 1938, poorly printed $1 bills started showing up across New York City. They were rough, the ink was uneven, and on some of them, the word Washington was misspelled. The portrait of George Washington looked, according to one Secret Service agent, like the work of someone who'd seen a dollar bill once and was working from memory. The Secret Service opened case number 880, standard procedure. They expected it closed within weeks. The bills were so bad that identifying the source should have been simple. It wasn't. The problem was volume, or rather, the lack of it. The counterfeiter never flooded any neighborhood. One bill at a grocery store, another at a diner 3 blocks away, a third at a newsstand 2 weeks later. Always $1, always a different location, always a small enough amount that nobody called the police over it. Shopkeepers would notice the bill looked off, shrug, and toss it in the register. $1 wasn't worth the hassle. Months became years. The Secret Service assigned agents full-time. They mapped every fake bill on a wall chart that eventually covered an entire office. The pattern was maddening. There was no pattern. Just a slow, steady drip of terrible counterfeits moving through the boroughs like background noise. And that was exactly why it worked. Now hold that image. An old man, a hand-cranked press, misspelled bills, and compare it to what the Secret Service started finding in the 1990s. $100 bills. Perfect ones. The paper was right. The ink was right. The security thread was right. The microprinting, the color-shifting ink, the watermark, all correct. These bills passed every standard detection test. Banks accepted them. Counting machines accepted them. Some analysts at the Federal Reserve couldn't distinguish them from genuine currency without lab equipment. They were called supernotes, and the evidence pointed to North Korea. The theory, supported by multiple intelligence agencies, was that Pyongyang had acquired the same intaglio printing presses used by the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing, the same type of cotton linen paper, the same formulation of ink. This wasn't counterfeiting in the traditional sense. It was a nation-state replicating American currency at an industrial level. Estimates suggest tens of millions in supernotes entered global circulation. They showed up in banks across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. The Secret Service Counterfeit Division treated it as a national security threat, not just a financial crime. And yet, here's what's counterintuitive. The Supernotes, for all their perfection, posed a specific and containable problem. They were $100 bills. Hundreds get scrutinized. Banks check them. Cashiers hold them up to the light. Every $100 transaction carries a small moment of suspicion built into it. The old man's dollar bills carried no suspicion at all. Emerich Juettner, that was his name, was finally caught in 1948. Not through detective work. A fire in his apartment sent his belongings onto the street, and neighborhood kids found his printing plates in the wreckage. He was 73. He'd been at it for a decade. The most wanted counterfeiter on the Secret Service's books was a widowed junk dealer living alone in a walk-up on the Upper West Side. His total output over 10 years? Roughly $5,000 in fake money. That's less than most counterfeiters produce in a week. But the Secret Service had spent more than $50,000 trying to catch him. And here's what made the case genuinely significant. Not the money, not the manhunt, but what it revealed about how counterfeiting actually damages an economy. Supernotes are a problem of scale. You find them, you pull them from circulation, you upgrade the security features, you move on. The system has tools for that. Juettner exposed something the system has no tool for. He proved that if you counterfeit small enough and badly enough and consistently enough, you can operate inside the gap between what money is worth and what people bother to verify. A dollar doesn't get checked because the cost of checking exceeds the cost of being wrong. That gap, that moment where someone decides a bill isn't worth questioning, is where trust lives. And trust is the only thing that makes paper money work at all. Think about that for a second. Every transaction you make with cash rests on a decision not to verify. Not because you can't, because it's not worth it. Juettner was convicted, fined $1, and sentenced to a short prison term. The judge reportedly found the whole thing more absurd than threatening. Hollywood made a movie about him, Mr. 880, and he became a folk hero. But the Secret Service didn't find it funny. Because what Juettner demonstrated, almost by accident, is the same vulnerability that keeps counterfeiting experts up at night. Fake money doesn't destroy an economy by replacing real currency. It destroys an economy by making people wonder whether the bill in their hand is real. Counterfeiting isn't a crime against paper. It's a crime against the agreement that paper means something. The Supernotes threatened the dollar from the outside. Juettner threatened it from underneath. From the ordinary, unexamined moment where you take a bill and don't think twice. The greatest counterfeiter in history didn't need perfect technique. He just needed everyone to keep not looking. Worth keeping in mind, this isn't financial or legal advice, just the documented history of how counterfeiting shaped the systems we still use today. If this made you rethink what gives money its power, the next one goes even deeper. The tax that caused a revolution, from Rome to Boston Tea Party. The story of what happens when governments push that trust too far and entire economies break in response. I'll see you there.